Good afternoon. Many of us are in the midst of the summer. We have family in the bungalow colony in the country. Many are in camp. But yet today when we daven Rosh Chodesh, we said Hallel, we said Yalav Yavai. And in a sense, we're reminded, of growing up, of what Elul was all about. Even though it's hard for us to feel it today, to get into the mood. It's the middle of the summer, we're in the country, we're enjoying ourselves. But we were reminded of the stories that our Rabbi told us. Rabbi Shalom Shadran used to say over that when he was a young child, his mother would take him to the seas. And she would point to the fish that were swimming in the waters. And she would say, see, look at the fish. Even the fish in the waters, they also sit there. They also get nervous when it comes Chodesh Elul. And in a sense we chuckle because it's so far removed from us. But nevertheless, this morning in shul, even last week when they benched Rosh Chodesh and they said Rosh Chodesh Elul Yeh B'Yom HaShabbos Kodesh U'Machrasa B'Yom HaRishon, when they benched the Rosh Chodesh Elul in shul,
what does that mean?
The special prayer that they say on the Shabbos prior to Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month, we feel the words reverberating in our mind. We feel the impression. An Altamira once told me, he says he remembers that he used to sit in the Mir Yeshiva right in front of Rabbi Chatzkel Levenstein, the Mir Mashkiach. And he said that when the Chazan would go to the Bima and say, Rosh Chodesh Elul Yeh B'Yom, he says Rabbi Chatzkel's face would turn white, turn pale. The great Balei Musa of the era in Europe before the Muhammad, they would say that it would be enough as they would walk down the street and the shoemaker, the local shoemaker would turn to them and say, do you need anything fixed? That was enough to put them in the mood. But today, by us, unfortunately, by many of us, we find it very difficult to do tshuva, to change. It's something that's so foreign to us. And the question is really why? Why is it different in our door? And many different reasons are given. But I'd like to offer an observation that I believe it's the nature of a person. He thinks to himself, what can I already accomplish in a short 4 weeks? How am I going to change so fast? I'm going to change my whole entire lifestyle. And therefore, in a sense, we give up. We put ourselves in a state of yish. We give up hope. We say, what can I already accomplish? What can I do already? And therefore we say, you know what? Why even try? I want to share with you an incredible story of the great legendary Maggid, the world-renowned Baal Musa, Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky. I remember Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky used to come to the Mir Yeshiva, used to speak to us. So Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky, after he survived the war, he was in Yeshivas Nevardik, they sent him to Siberia, but he had a very, very close friend, a very good friend that they were together many years before the Muhammad. After the war, when he immigrated to Eretz Yisrael, he meets his friend, and Nebuch, his friend, the lone survivor, he lost his entire family, his entire mishpacha. He went through the horrors of Churban Yerapa, going through the concentration camps. And he came all alone. His entire family was wiped out. And after a short while, he started to give up hope. He said, I can't go on. I can't continue. It's way too difficult for me. And Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky tried to machazik him. He tried to give him a chizik. To tell him no, to move on, start life again. Don't give up. You survived. How many survived the Muhammad? You survived. Don't give up. But it didn't work. So he took him to the Chazon Ish. He brings him to the Chazon Ish and he tells the Chazon Ish that they were very close friends. Before the Muhammad, during the war, he survived, but now he immigrated to Eretz Yisrael. He has nothing, no relatives, no mishpacha. He's only one person, a lone survivor. And he wants to give up. He doesn't want to continue. So the Chazon Ish looks up and he smiles at the fellow and he tells him, I want to tell you a story. He says, listen to a Maisa. The Chazon Ish tells him that he remembers there was a Chashav Talmud Chacham. He would sit and learn, and his wife was the breadwinner of the family. She supported him. She very much wanted that he should be able to learn. She saw he has tremendous kishroinus. He could be a tremendous person. He could be a marbitz Torah. So she said, you know what, you sit and learn and I'll become the breadwinner of the house. And the way she used to make her money was she would save up a few dollars, a few kopecks. She would buy some materials, some products, and she would take whatever money she had with these materials, she would sell it to the wholesaler. She would spend a few weeks there. She'd try to make as much money as possible. She would fill up the bag with the coins, and then she would go home. And again, after she made more money, she went back. She did larger sales to the wholesaler. And like this, she was able to support her family. So the Chazon Ish says that one time, she went with a tremendous amount of merchandise, a lot of products, a lot of materials, and she sold all the goods, and she was ready to go back home to bring the money back to her husband to support the family. As she's about to leave, she realizes that the bag of coins are gone. She can't find the bag of coins. She doesn't know what to do. This is her bread and butter. So she quickly runs to the Shtatz Rav. She goes to the Rav in the town. And she tells the Rav, she says, listen, the way I make my parnasa, the way I make my livelihood, is I go ahead, I save up money, I buy some products, and then I sell it. And then with that money, I go back home, and I stay there for a few months until I come back the next time. And I just realized the entire bag of coins is gone. So do me a favor. She asked the Shtatz Rav. She says, do me a favor, hang up a sign in the shul. This is my address. If anybody comes to you with the bag of coins, what are the chances that someone's going to find it? But if they do and they tell you they found the bag of coins, it's mine. And this is my address. Please track me down. Send me a letter. I'll come right away to come pick it up. But she figured, what are the chances? 2 weeks pass. This fellow walks into the Shtatz Rav. And he tells the Shtatz Rav that he read the sign in the shul and he found the bag of coins. But he says, I want to tell you something. If al pi halacha I'm mechuyev to give back the bag of coins, 100%, I'm ready to give it back. But if al pi halacha I'm allowed to keep it, because I remember learning that the Gemara in Bava Metzia tells us that if you have an ir sheruba nachrim, if the majority of the city are nachrim, are non-Jews, the Gentiles, then the halacha is harei elu shelo, you're allowed to keep the bag of coins, because we take on that the owner gave up hope, the owner was miyayish. And he tells the Rav that I'm an ani ve'evyon, I'm a pauper, I'm a desolate, I have to marry off my child. So if al pi halacha I'm allowed to keep it, I don't want to give it back. I don't want to do the lifnim rishus adin. I don't want to go above the letter of the law. In the Shtatz Rav, he's thinking to himself, what does he do here? On one hand, he's right. The Gemara says, an ir sheruba nachrim, you're allowed to go ahead, you're allowed to keep the big. But mitzad sheni, this is the way the woman supports her family. He was a regular Shtatz Rav, he wasn't the Welt's Goyin, and he decided that he's going to present the Shiloh to the great Rabbi Yitzchak Kachon Inspector, the chief rabbi of Kovna, the foremost rabbinic halachic authorities of the 19th century. The great Rabbi Yitzchak Kachon, he received correspondence across the whole entire world with the most intricate, delicate shilas posed to Rabbi Yitzchak Kachon Inspector. The Chazon Ish turns to this fellow. He turns to Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky and he turns to the fellow and he says, what do you think? Who do you think that bag of coins really belongs to? Does it belong to the woman or does it belong to the one who found it? And the fellow said that, I also remember learning in the yeshiva that at Ir Sheruba Nachrim, if the majority of the city are Gentiles, the one who finds it's allowed to keep it. The Chazon Ish turns to him and he tells him they went to the Kovna Rav. They went to Rabbi Yitzchak Kachon Inspector. And Rabbi Yitzchak Kachon Inspector paskin that the bag of coins has to go back to the woman, it has to go back to the lady. And he says, you know why? He says, because there's halacha and Shulchan Aruch that masha kani isha kana bailo, what the woman acquires belongs to her husband. And therefore, the woman had no right to give up hope. She had no right to be miyayish. And being that her husband, who's really the primary owner of those coins, was not miyayish, he did not give up. It's not her coins to be able to give up hope. The Chazon Ish turns to this fellow and he tells him, if it would be your neshama, if it would be your life 100%, you have a right to be miyayish, you have a right to give up hope. But Elokai, neshama shenasata bi, it's the Rebbeinu Shalom who gave you your soul. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu entrusted you with the Yehilig neshama. It's not yours, it's a pikadon. You have no right to give up hope. And therefore strengthen yourself, be mechazik yourself, as difficult as it is and as difficult as it was. You must rise to the challenge and continue going and continue growing. Rabbi said we can't be meyayish, we can't give up. We have to have a focus, we have to have a destination, we have to have a goal. You know, there is a tremendous tightrope artist, extremely talented. He was able to ride the unicycle on a tightrope while he was juggling midair. And it was as though his feet were on the ground. Extremely talented, tremendous. When they asked him afterwards what he finds the most difficult, he replied that you might be amazed, but riding the unicycle, the bicycle, juggling, that's easy to me. But you know what the most difficult thing is? When you get to the end of the rope and you have to turn around to make a slight turn, that's the most difficult. And that's really the story of so many of our lives. We're such a busy lifestyle, we're doing so many things, so many good things. But when it comes a time to take a small turn, to take a step towards tshuva, sometimes perhaps it feels like it's the most difficult. The most difficult of tasks, of taking that step towards tshuva. You know, Rabbi say, they have now, I see, my son is in camp, but the camps, what they do is they send out videos of your child in camp. Send it out to all the parents. Like they'll take a video of the child playing basketball, he hits the shot, they'll send the parent the clip of the video to watch it. And as parents, as we receive the video, we find ourselves, we start talking about the child, he did this, he got the basketball, he shot it in, the Rabbi said this about him. Why is it? It's only a basketball if you break it down. So he hit the shot, he didn't hit the shot. Why is it such a big deal? It's because we love our children. So whatever they do is such a big deal to us. You know that the Rebbeinu Shalom talks about us also. HaKadosh Baruch Hu talks about us. Haben Yaakov Yafraim, Im Yelet Shashuim, Ki Midei Dabru Boi Zocher Eskerenu Oid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. The Even Ezra writes, the Even Ezra Rishon, the Even Ezra writes that the Rebbeinu Shalom loves a Yid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu likes a person more than a parent likes a child. And the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for every Yid is so great that he gives over some of that love to the parent in order that the parent should love the child. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu talks about us. He speaks about us. You know one of the things that Hashem says about us? The Gemara in Sukkah tells us, Mayofu Pamayich Bas Nediv. HaKadosh Baruch Hu talks about those times that Klal Yisrael would go 3 times a year to be Elul Regel, to go visit in the Beis HaMikdash, to be Makriv their Korban Chagiga, their Elul Sriya. Mayafu Pamayach, look how beautiful the shoes of Klal Yisrael, Bas Nediv, the daughters of Avraham Avinu, look how beautiful they are. Rabbi say, why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu talking about the shoes? The shoes is en route, that's on journey, that's when we're traveling. Once we get into the Azara, once we get to the Beis HaMikdash, we have to take off our shoes. The traveling to get there that we have our shoes on is only a prerequisite. It's a hechetimsa. I got to get to the Beis HaMikdash to be Elul Regel. So therefore, I'm wearing my shoes. But the actual greatness is standing in the Azara, watching the Kohanim, seeing them do the Avodah. The Sifri writes, L'man tilmad l'yira es oisi kol hayamim. A person went to the Beis HaMikdash, he saw what was going on. Kohanim b'avodasam, the lechem upon him. You can imagine the Kedusha, that he was immersed and saturated with the Dvar Hashem. But no, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Mayafu Pamayich Bas Nediv. Let's talk about the shoes that you're wearing on the journey. How do we explain this? Isn't the actual standing in the Azara so much greater? Listen to a word from the great Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Zeichet Tzadik v'Kadosh Uvracha. Rav Shlomo Zalman writes, let's imagine. Let's take the family that's making the journey. The fellow goes ahead, he packs up the carriage, the horse and buggy with his entire family, his 10 children, his 8 children, whatever it is. This is before they had cars. This is before electronic devices. This is before all the gadgets. There are no airplanes. There's nothing. The trip could take weeks. It could take days. To be able to go be Elul Regel in Eretz Yisrael. So you pack the carriage. What happens? It begins to rain. Could you imagine? The children, they're getting all soggy. All the clothes are dirty. The floors start to get all muddy. The carriage is having a hard time. You can imagine the difficulty that it has to pass. And then one child starts crying, he's hungry, the other one has to be changed. Imagine the chaos that's taking place. And just the middle, the father turns to the wife and says, maybe let's turn back. It's not feasible. We're in Einus. It's just not possible to happen. It's just too difficult. How are we going to make the trip? But the wife says, no, let's go a little bit longer. You'll see I have extra food here in the carriage in the bottom. Yeah, but it's in the bottom of the suitcases. It's all the way in the bottom. How are we going to get? No, I have another bag over here. Let's try. And he pushes and they go again. And they continue traveling. Another few hours pass. And then again it starts to rain. And the kids are hungry. They want to eat. They're dirty. You can imagine what's going on in the carriage, what's taking place. And the husband says, forget it. Let's just go back. It's too hard. When the kids get older, we'll be Eile Regel. But they mechazik themselves and they say, no, let's keep on going. And they go weiter, they keep on traveling, and then a third time, it comes up again, but this time they say, we're already so far in the trip, it's really not worth it to turn around. And they come into the Yerushalayim, to the Harabayis, they enter the Azara. He comes in with his karbanis, his Eilis Riyah, his Eilis Chagiga. He's standing in a spiritual trance, mamish. Ma'nedar, Marakoyin, Emes, he sees what's going on. The Kehanim B'Avaydosam, the Leviyim B'Shiram, totally immersed in Kedusha. He's oblivious to what's going on. He's no longer in the physical world, he's in the metaphysical world. It's total Kedusha. He's oblivious to what's going on. He long forgot about the trip. Rabbi said, what's more chashuv by HaKadosh Baruch Hu? What does the Ribono Shel Olam like better? What does he give shvach about? Is it when the person standing in the Azara being mufkas, separated from the Gashmis of this world? Or was it the struggles, the challenges, the trial and tribulations as the person took the journey? Says the Pasuk, Ma yafu pa'amayich. How beautiful were the shoes. Yes, you're right. When they were on journey, when they were en route, they were battling the Satan, they were battling the Yetzer Hara. Should we make the trip? Should we not make the trip? You can't, it's incomparable to what took place when they're standing by the Azara, the Kedusha that they had, the Ruchnius, the Spashus Hagashmius, the level that they were on. But it says, Ribono Shel Olam, no, to me it's more chashuv, Ma'yofu Pa'amayich, it's more chashuv to me the journey. Yes, perhaps we're on the tightrope, we're juggling so many different things of life, but the most difficult task, when we get to the end of the rope, it comes to Elul, we have to take that turn. Perhaps we feel it's the most difficult, but it's the most promising, it's the most chashuv. It's not measured by the amount. The Navi tells us, Hanoisin derech bayam. The Ribono Shel Olam places the path in the sea. Hanoisin derech, he places the path, the derech bayam in the sea. Says the great Arizal, what's this referring to? It's the captain of the ship. He's leading the ship. He realizes that he's on the wrong path. He has to turn around. So in an instinct, there's no big deal. He turns the ship around. He gets on the right path. Someone's on the city street. Someone's on the highways. He misses the exit. It's no easy task. You get off on the wrong exit, you're stuck in traffic. You have to try to get a detour to get back on the highway. You get back on the highway, you realize you're on the wrong highway. And then again, you get stuck in traffic. And then you look for the exit, you try to find someone to help you how to get on the road. Says the Arizal, you know what Elul's about? Hanoisin derech biyam. The Ribono Shel Olam says if someone's going to take the turn, if someone's going to step forward, you're going to see it's going to be so easy. It's hanoisin derech biyam. It's like looking for that derech, for that path, not in the city streets, not on the highways, but it's biyam on the sea where it's so simple, it's so easy to turn. Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky, the great tzaddik, when he went to go visit in Antwerp, he was greeted by the great tzaddik Reb Chaim Kreisworth. So Reb Chaim Kreisworth tells Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky when he meets him, he tells him, you know where I'm coming from now? I'm coming from a din Torah of two litigants. You know what they're fighting about? They're fighting, there's a din Torah, that they're fighting of 0.5%, that's less than 1%. 0.5% they're having a din Torah about. This fellow's taking the boss of the business, the real estate business, he's taking him to a din Torah over 0.5%. That's less than 1%. So Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky thinks to himself, how shallow the people of Antwerp. This is what they fight about. Reb Chaim Kreisworth turns to him and he tells him, what if I would tell you, that the difference of this 0.5% is a difference of millions of dollars. Would it make a difference? Says Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky, now I realize. Now I understand what Elul is all about. David HaMelech tells us in Tehillim, Toivli Toras Picha Me'alfei Zav V'Chesef. There's no value, there's nothing worth more than the Torah, than the mitzvahs. Says Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky, could you imagine if I could just only improve my mitzvahs, my Torah, my chesed, my tefillah? 0.5%. Could you imagine how much it's worth and how much the Rebbeinu Shalom would cherish such a devotion? And the emes is, it's not just Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky, it's a mabit from the early Kadmonim, the 15th century. The mabit writes, it's very interesting, when the Torah talks about tshuva, the pasuk that the Torah writes is a very interesting way. Ki karev elecha adav ha'moed, it's very close to you. The Ramban learns the pasuk is referring to tshuva. Rashi learns it's referring to Torah, but the Ramban, many other commentators, the Rishonim learn it's referring to tshuva. Ki karev elecha adav ha'moed, it's so close. It's beficha, it's in your mouth. Bevavcha, it's in your heart. Lasoisei, it's so easy to do. No other mitzvah do you find such an introduction. Comes to the mitzvah of lulav, there's an introduction. Ki karev elecha, it's in your hand's reach to shake the lulav. Comes to tefillin, comes to sukkah. You never find such a terminology. Why, when we come to tshuva, does it say ki karev elecha? It's so close. It's beficha. It's in your mouth. Bevavcha. It's in your heart. Why that introduction? Says the Mabit. Let truth be told, that the mitzvah of tshuva in a way is different than other mitzvahs. When it comes to the mitzvah of tzitzis, a person only has 3 tzitzis. He doesn't have 4. Is he yotze the mitzvah? No, he doesn't have tzitzis. He needs 4 corners. Person has tefillin. He doesn't have all the parashas. He's not yotze. Person has a lulav without hadassim. He's not yotze the mitzvah. Says the great Mabit, when it comes to the mitzvah of tshuva, even the slightest amount that a person does, 0.5%, that's also a chelik of tshuva. Yes, you want to know if it's the epitome, it's the entire, it's tshuva in its totality? No. But ki karev elecha adav ha'moed, every improvement, every chizuk, that in itself is all a chelik of the mitzvah of tshuva. And when we begin to internalize this message of the greatness of what tshuva is about, we start to view Elul that it's not just merely a month, a chodesh of pachad, of fear. Yes, of course, it's a yom adin. Mi'itztak lefanecha kol choy, kol b'nei morim is yavin lefanecha, the whole entire world is a yom adin. Of course, it's a pachad, for sure. It's a fear, but at the same time, it becomes a zman of such opportunity. An awareness of so much to be able to grow, to be able to steig, to become so much closer to the Bari Olam. You know, if you look, there's a dialogue between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. Where Klal Yisrael tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashivenu Hashem Eilecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you take the first step. Hashivenu Hashem Eilecha, you take the first step. You bring us to you. V'nashuva, and you'll see how much better, how much effective we'll return. But then there's another chazal, there's another prophecy, there's another nevuah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no, shuvei elai, you have to take the first step. And then v'shuva aleichem, I'll come back to you. So which one is it? Is it Hashivenu Hashem Eilecha? Is it incumbent upon us to take the first step? Or is it shuvei elai v'shuva aleichem? Or is it the other way around? Which one is it? And the Svarim tell us that there are really different zmanim, there are really different times in our life. There are those times that shuvei elai v'shuva aleichem, we have to take the first step. But then there are those special zmanim, there are those special times that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Hashivenu Hashem Eilecha. The great mashal brought down of the king. And he wanted to know, what's the common folk? What is the people saying about him? Is he a good melech? Is he not a good melech? Do they like him? Is there anything he should improve in? So what he would do is he would disguise himself, go around like a regular citizen, and he would talk to the people, see what they say. So he did this all the years. Kachava, he dressed himself up like a regular citizen. He would reach out to the common folk and ask them what they thought about the king. And like this, he always knew how to gauge himself, how to improve his malchus. It's the middle of a hot summer day. He realizes on his journey, he can't go with an entourage because people are going to realize that he's the melech, so he had to go in disguise. He realizes he runs out of water. He has nowhere to get water from. It's mamash b'koach nefesh, life and death. He's going to die. A local peasant sees that the king needs water. He doesn't know it's the king, but he sees the fellow needs water. He quickly goes ahead, he takes a bottle of water, he gives it to the king. So the king turns to this fellow and says, I want to tell you something. He says, look, you're not going to trust me, but I'm really the king of this country. In 2 weeks, I'm going back to the palace. Take this card from me, and I want to repay you for saving my life. And when you bring me this card, I'm going to grant you your wish. Whatever you ask for, I'm going to give you, because I have so much hakaras hatoy for what you did for me. You saved my life. 2 weeks later, the fellow goes to the palace. He has the card. He shows the guards the card. They let him right in. He comes into the inner chambers. He comes to the king. And the king says, grant your wish. I'll give it to you. So the fellow says, you know what? I want to be the governor of the city. Overnight, in an instant, he becomes the governor, becomes wealthy, has riches, everything, 1, 2, 3, just like that. When he came back to the town, so his friend asked him, what happened? How did you get so wealthy, so rich overnight? So he told him, what do you mean? The king was there 2 weeks ago. He ran out of a bottle of water. I gave him a bottle of water to drink. So the fellow says, that's it? He quickly goes ahead. He runs to the local store. He buys a bottle of water. He gift wraps it. And he says, okay, great. He's going to do the same thing. He goes running to the palace. The guards standing outside, they ask him, what are you doing here? He says, what do you mean I have a gift for the king? He said, a gift for the king? What kind of gift? You can't just bring things inside. We have to check what it is. They start unraveling the wrappers. They start unwrapping all the papers. They open it up. They see a bottle of water. They're ready to take the guy, throw him to the dogs. This is what you bring the melech? This is the king of the entire country. He says, no. The other fellow brought water. Look what happened to him. The king says, how could you compare the two? The other person, when he gave me the water, is when I was out of my palace. I was out of my chambers. Now I'm sitting in my palace. What's a bottle of water going to do for me? Come the Sforim, and the Sforim tell us in a few short weeks, it's HaMelech HaYoshev HaKisei Ram V'Nisa. The Rebbeinu Shalom's in the inner chambers. He's sitting in the throne, and we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all our Kabbalahs, with our bottle of water. But the time is not when HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Melech HaYoshev HaKisei Ram V'Nisa. The time is in Elul, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes out to the common folk. He goes out to the people. And that's what Elul stands for. Elul is an acronym. The word Elul stands for Ani, L'Doidi, L'Doidi Li. The Rebbeinu Shalom says that during the month of Elul, Hashivenu Hashem Elecha, I'm going to take the first step. Kol Doidi Doifek. Elul is that special time. And we therefore have to ask ourselves, so what is it that we could possibly do? We know we can't be miyayish. We can't give up. We already learned from Rav Shlomo Zalman that every act that we do, the more difficult, the greater it is. We're taught from the Arizal, Hanoisen Derech Beyam. A person shows he just wants to make that turn. It's like taking a turn in the sea. It's not like taking the turn in the city streets or the highways. It's kikar v'elecha adav. It's so close to us. It's in our hands' reach. It's beficha. It's bevavcha. It's lasoisai. So what do we do? What do we work with? We have to have a goal. We have to have a focus. We have to do something. Those of us who learned in yeshiva, we're very familiar with the idea of oinus. Something that's oinus achmana patre. Something that's an oinus by accident, by chance, by an accident. It wasn't done on purpose. The din is an oinus yipater. You're exempt. So the pasuk says in Parshas Kiseitze, Ki yematzei naira basada. When you go out and you find a young girl that was violated in the field, v'tafsu oisa was done by force. This is the place where we learn that oinus is pater and oinus is exempt. L'naira le'sasa dava, says the pasuk. You can't punish her. You can't do anything to her. Why? Because v'tafsu oisa, she was grabbed by force. It was against her will. Homiletically, what the pasuk is teaching us, Kiseitze, in that parsha, Umatzu basada, you find the naira is referring to Klal Yisrael, with the daughters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'tafsu oisa, the Yetzer Hara, he grabs hold of us. He tries to entice us. He tries to lure us into chet. L'nayr le'sas davar. We Klal Yisrael were innocent. You know why? Says the pasuk Kitza'aka, because we call out. Kitza'aka, because we call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We call out to our Father. We call out to the Ribono Shel Olam. The Rebbe Reb Zisha used to say, I never saw a malach that was created from a Yid's Avera. It's always with so much remorse, with so much charata, so much grief. Says the pasuk, what's the Eitz Kitza'aka? We have to call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was a young doctor. There was a big lawsuit, a tremendous lawsuit that was taking place against the doctor. They wanted to take away his license. He should never be able to practice again. After he graduated and finally he got his degree, he got his license to practice, they assigned him on the night shift one night, his first night on the field, first night at work. They assigned him, there was a special department for the severe ill patients in the intensive care unit. And they assigned him that night to take care of that floor. And when they gave him the position for that night, they warned him before and they told him, look, we're tremendously understaffed. We don't have any other doctors. You're the sole doctor for the night. And we understand that one doctor would be impossible to take care of an entire floor. How do you have one doctor taking care of the whole floor? It's impossible. But if any situation arises, hopefully it'll be peaceful. Hopefully the night will go by. But if any situation arises, make sure to call us. And if you call us, we'll reach out for help. We'll reach out to other doctors. This doctor's first night on the job, he begins the shift. He's hoping it's going to be a quiet night. But within a minute or two into the shift, he's running from room to room, patient to patient. He didn't sit for a moment, taking care of every single patient to the best of his ability, and he's the only doctor on the floor. A few short moments before dawn, he's in the middle of taking care of a patient. And Nebuch, the patient next door, needed some care. He didn't have another doctor there to help. And by the time he finished with this patient to go to the other patient, the patient already passed away. And here he is standing in court facing the judge. A tremendous lawsuit against him. They want to take away his license of negligence. And this doctor turns to the judge and he tells the judge, Your Honor, do you understand that I did not sit down that night for a moment? I was running from patient to patient, room to room. How could you hold this against me? The judge turns to him and says, You're right. But you know what you did wrong? You should have picked up the phone and called up for help. Says Reb Shamshon Pincus, to those who ask the question, how's it possible that the same Torah that we have, the same mitzvahs that we have, is given over to Moshe Rabbeinu, is given over to Tanoim, is given over to Amoraim, people that are so much greater than us, to Reb Kiva Eger, to Chassam Sofer, to a Satmar Rebbe, to the Bluzhever Rebbe, to Reb Moshe Feinstein. And how's it given up to the simple mortal, to the simple Yilud Ish? How could it be held to the same standards? How do we keep the same Torah? So Reb Shamshon Pincus, you're right, but you know what the time is going to be? Why don't you call to the Ribono Shel Olam to help you? Why don't you ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help? Because when a person turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for help, the Ribono Shel Olam gives him koiches that never existed. He gives him the wherewithal, the ability to overcome all obstacles. And that's really what we're here today, the topic of today. Of when it comes to Elul, of calling out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we could say, Kitza'aka, we called out. L'nayr le'sas davar, you can't do anything to the young girl. Allegorically referring to Klal Yisrael, the Bas Nadiv, with the daughters of Avraham Avinu, with the daughters of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why Kitza'aka? We turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we ask him for his help. But how does this work? Listen to a Maral. Listen to a Maral in the Gemara in Tainus that the Gemara tells us, the Gemara discusses an avodah. An avodah is something, it's a worship, it's a ritual, it's an avodah. To be Oved Hashem b'chol avavchem with your entire heart. Says the Gemara, what's that avodah referring to? What's an avodah that one does with their heart? Says the Gemara, says the Gemara that avodah is referring to tefillah. So ask the Maral, why is that an avodah? Isn't tefillah just like a shopping list? We ask the Kodesh Baruch Hu, we want nachas, we want health, we should have longevity, arichas yamim. Why is that called an avodah? Zok the Maral, ki ha-tefillah. Because when it comes to tefillah, kisha adam ispal, when a person davens, Moira Hashem Yisbarach, what he's doing in a sense is he's telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ki chayav nitla boy, ve'ein kiyim zulasai. What he's telling the Ribbon Shalom is that I realize that I have nothing without HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, I walk, yes, I talk, I breathe, I go to the store, I drive. But that's all because the Ribbon Shalom wants me to do it. Ve'ein kiyim zulasai, there's nothing that I could do without him. And therefore, says the Maral, that tefillah is the greatest demonstration of emunah. It's the greatest demonstration of hashgacha pratius. Of coming to the realization that we have nothing without the Ribbon Shalom, because if I don't believe in him, then why am I standing and davening to him? You know, it's like the infant. If the mother leaves the child for 24, 48, 72 hours without nurturing the baby's going to die. We're no less without HaKadosh Baruch Hu sustaining us. And that's what tefillah is. Tefillah is emunah. Against the human nature, against man's ego of American society, of the Western civilization, that I'm self-independent, I'm self-reliant, I can do it all on my own. Tefillah is, that's not true, that's not the case. Ki chayav nitla boy, my entire life is totally in the Ribbon Shalom. Could you imagine Chizkiyahu HaMelech, Tzaddik Yisod Olam, the greatest men of the generation. If Mashiach would have came, the Gemara says Chizkiyahu would have been Mashiach. Chizkiyahu HaMelech went ahead and he buried. He was gone as the Sefer Refuos. We had a medical book that was written, the Tashbat says, that in the Teva, back in the Mabul, we had Mazikim, we had the Shadim in the Teva. They were causing harm. There were people becoming sick from the Shadim. So the Tashbat says a Malach came from the Gan Eden. He took one of the Bnei Noach, he brings him up to the Gan Eden, and they taught him all the refuahs, all the medical solutions. And one of the sons of Noach came back to the Teva and he wrote down, they made a whole book, a medical book called Sefer Refuahs. Anyone that was ever sick got cured. There's no such thing as a person had a bad leg. He went to the Sefer Refuahs, he opened up the chapter of feet, he had a cure. No more headaches, nothing, zero, no more back pains. They would need no cancer, nothing, zero. Everything is cured. Sefer Refuahs had the remedy, it had everything. And if you want to go with the opinion of the Rambam, it was written by Shlomo HaMelech. Comes the great Chizkiyahu HaMelech. And he takes the Sefer Refuahs, he takes the medical book and he buries it and he hides it. Why? Because people stopped davening. Who gave him the right to do that? Who gave him the permission to do that? Comes to Bekuach Nefashis, there's only three Averis that are Nitcha b'nei Bekuach Nefashis, the three cardinal sins. Who gave him the right to be gone as the Sefer Refuahs? It's like Reb Motcha Gifter. That tells the Rosh Yeshiva, because there's something greater than Bekuach Nefashis. There's something greater than saving a person's life. And that's Bekuach Neshamas. That's saving the person's soul, that's saving his neshama. And if a person doesn't daven, if a person doesn't have that intimate relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it doesn't have to be in the form of tefillah. If a woman is busy with her children, it doesn't have to be in the nusach that Chazal set up. It could be just talking regular to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But if someone doesn't have that intimate relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that they could talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Vais the Choy says Rav Gifta is much worse. Because then the soul will die. And a guf without a neshama loses its preciousness. It loses its chashivas. And the Mishnah and the Gemara says that if the Chizkiyahu went ahead and buried this book, It was Haidulai Chachamim, they agreed to him, and they said he did the right thing. There were other things that he did that was Lai Haidulai. Gimel Haidulai, Gimel Lai Haidulai. There were 3 things that they didn't agree with what he did. But when he was gone as a Sefer Refuos, they were Haidulai. They said he did the right thing. A fascinating hafla. The hafla, the Rebbe Chasam Sofer. He writes on the Gemara, where the Gemara tells us, Yoser, Mima, She'asher Oisel Ani, more than the rich person does for the pauper, is Ani Oisel Balabayis, does the pauper do for the Asher. Simply you learn because the mitzvah of stock is so great. Writes the hafla. Listen to a memory of the hafla. This is the Rebbe Chasam Sofer. Ki yedua l'chol ha'maimin. It's known to every person that's a maimin, that's the true believer, that has emunah HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ki ha'michya ve'ha'mazayin. It comes to a person's provisions, his sustenance, his food. B'schus ha'tfilah. She keneged ha'mizbeach. Says the hafla, you can have 2 people. Person sees his friend, he's so successful, an affluent individual, he's being matzich in parnasa. And the fellow says, I'm going to do the exact same track, I'm going to take the same track, I'll do the same job, I'll go to the same yeshivas. I'm going to do exactly what my friend is doing, I want to be matzliach like him. Says the hafla, lav dafka, the outcome's going to be the same. You know why? Ki ha'michya v'ha'mazayin, a person's provisions, a person's hatzlacha, b'schus ha'tfilah, it's all about the tfilah. Yes, we have to go to work, we have to do our ishtadlus. But in essence, where is it coming from? B'schus ha'tfilah. It's coming from the tfilah. She keneged ha'mizbeach, which is keneged the mizbeach. That's where the hatzlacha is coming from. Yes, I have to do my ishtadlus. But where is it coming from? It's coming from the tfilah. So who said, maybe perhaps, your friend's tfilah is more niskabel? It's like the Yerushalmi Yid. He's standing in the post office in Eretz Yisrael. And he sees this fellow inside the post office. He gives 20 shekel to the teller behind the counter. The teller takes out this box filled with jewels and riches and jewelry. So Yerushalmi Yid that sees what's going on, he says, wow, there's a gold mine. For 20 shekel, this is what you get? He quickly runs to the Beis Yisrael Shtibluch. He collects 20 shekel, comes running back to the post office, and he tells the teller, I'll take the same box that the other fellow just took. The teller looks at him. He says, did you lose your mind? This box was delivered from overseas. The 20 shekel was just a delivery charge. That wasn't for the box itself. Zok the hafla. Give us chus ha-tfilah. Ha-michya va-amazin, it comes from tfilah. Yes, our ishtadlus is a delivery charge. We have to do our ishtadlus. But at the end of the day, it's the schus of the tfilah. Sha-michya va-amazin. But inevitably, what ends up happening? We daven for something. We don't see an immediate response. And therefore we get down about it, and therefore we stop davening. And it's a vicious cycle, because once we stop davening, our tefillas can't be answered. But we have to believe in our tefillas. Chazal tell us, Moshe Rabbeinu v'aschanan el Hashem, he davens 515 tefillas to enter Eretz Yisrael. Zok the Medrash, this is a Medrash. This is a Medrash, Rabbi say. Writes the Medrash that if Moshe Rabbeinu would have davened one more tefillah, he would have entered into Eretz Yisrael. And that's why the Rebbeinu Shalom had to tell him, Al Tosef L'daber, don't daven again, because if you daven again, I'm going to have to take you in, and I made a gzeira, decree, that I can't take you in. Says the Medrash, if Moshe Rabbeinu would have went into Eretz Yisrael, there never would have been a churban. There never would have been a galus. I even ask him, what do you mean? The Gemara says there were the Gimel Averis that they did for Bayis Rishon, and there was Sin Haschinam. Yeah, but if Moshe Rabbeinu would have came into Eretz Yisrael, he would have elevated us to the level that we never would have done the Gimel Averis. But listen to this, concludes the Medrash. Not only if Moshe Rabbeinu would have davened, would have he been able to enter Eretz Yisrael one more tefillah? If any Yid would have davened, if any Yid in Klal Yisrael would have davened for Moshe Rabbeinu, one more tefillah, Moshe Rabbeinu would have been able to enter. But why didn't they daven? The reason why they didn't daven is because they said, if Moshe Rabbeinu is not going to be answered, how are we going to be answered? And this is one of the most vital and important fundamental elements of tefillah, that we have to believe in our tefillah. We have to trust in our tefillah. But is this taka true? Is this so that every tefillah is never for naught? No tefillah goes in vain? Let me share with you a Dubna Magid. A fascinating Dubna Magid. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Avram Avinu. He tells Avram Avinu, it's over, I'm destroying Sodom. Hakitzak sakasa alai, too much corruption, da ashchasa. I'm destroying Sodom, I'm done with them. Says the pasuk, but you should know Avram, hayayi elagoy gadol. But Avram's going to be a great nation, there are going to be great descendants that are going to come out of Avram Avinu, his offspring. In fact, the Dubna Magid, what does this have to do with anything? What is the fact that Avram hayayi elagoy gadol has to do with the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is destroying Sodom? It's out of sequence, there's nothing to do with the parsha, there's nothing to do with the story. Says the Dubna Magid, you know why? So the Dubna Magid, because people are later going to come and say that if the Rebbeinu Shalom goes ahead and destroys Sodom, what's going to be with all the tefillahs that Avram Avinu said? What happened to all those tears that he shed? Were they for naught? Were they in vain? Says the pasuk, V'Avram hayayi elagoy gadol. Those tefillahs are going to work for his descendants. It won't work for Sodom, but no tefillah goes for naught. No tefillah goes in vain. It might work at a different time. It might work for a different person. But no tefillah goes to waste. And therefore the Torah went out of its way, Avram hayayi elagoy gadol, that every tefillah that he said worked for his very own descendants. Years later, we're still living off those tefillahs. So we ask ourselves, the days of Elul, yes, we don't get affected, we don't get inspired by the fish and yam, by Chatzkel Levenstein turning pale, by the shoemaker that asks, what else could I fix? But it's Kikoi Ve'lecha Adav Ha'moed, it's in our hands reach, Beficha. The 0.5%, Beficha, with our mouth, the way we daven, Bilvavcha, our hearts, what our desires are, La'asoisoi. Listen to a Maisa. Listen to a story. The great tzaddik Reb Chaim Brim. I remember when I was in Eretz Yisrael, it was a thing. Did you go to Reb Chaim Brim yet to eat the Shabbos Suda? The legendary tzaddik Reb Chaim Brim. He sniffed a few years ago. But it became a thing. In Eretz Yisrael, you have to stop at Reb Chaim Brim. Parenthetically, I'll tell you a Maisa. One time he was invited to an event, and the speaker which preceded Reb Chaim Brim, when he spoke, he referred to his notes. So when they introduced Reb Chaim Brim to speak, as he spoke, he also referred to his notes. After he concluded his drasha, he by mistake forgot the paper on the podium. So at the end of the event, when the fellow came to clean up the room, he realized that Reb Chaim Brim forgot the piece of paper on the shtender. But to his amazement, he realized that the paper was blank. And after thinking for a few moments, he realized that the passion, the sensitivity Reb Chaim Brim had, he knew that if he would get up to speak, all by heart, after the previous speaker spoke from the paper, it wouldn't look good for the speaker beforehand. So Reb Chaim Brim, so too as well, when he spoke, he referred to his notes. So listen to a word from Reb Chaim Brim. Reb Chaim Brim fragt a kasha. The din is, ha'omer v'sein talamot l'vracha. If somebody says v'sein talamot l'vracha during the summer months, the din is, lo yotzi dei chavasa, he's not yotzi shmona esrei, and he must daven again. Why is that? Because it's a siman klala. If we're going to take this fellow's tefillah, he's davening the same talamatu, he's davening for the rain, and it's the middle of the summer months, it's catastrophic, who knows what could happen, says the Gemara, it's a siman klala, it's a curse, because it's going to start raining, it's not supposed to rain, what's it going to do to the produce, to the vegetation, to everything, the harvest, well, who knows what's going to be with everything? Lo yotzi de chavase, we had to coin our halacha, we had to create a din, lo yotzi de chavase, the tefillah is for naught. It's not a tefillah. Because if it would be a tefillah, who knows how cataclysmic things can happen. Frek Chaim Brim, I don't understand something. We're in the middle of the summer months, the scorching heat, the intensity of the humidity. It's 97 degrees outside. Who's thinking about the rain? The fellow that's saying V'sein Talamat Levracha, his mind is somewhere else. He's in the abyss. He's in the city of the Barrows of Alaska, ice skating, or spinning around in the ice stream of Vienna. But he's not in Shemoneh Esrei. He's not in Shul. His mind is elsewhere. He's oblivious to what's going on. Who thinks about the winter, middle of the summer? And for such a person who had no kavanah whatsoever, Chazal had to say, Lo yotzi de chavasai, what's the tefillah worth? So Reb Chaim Brim, what we see from over here, a tefillah of a yid, without kavanah. Could you imagine when the person says, Baruch Aleinu, when the person says, Refeinu, when he davens as Semach David, he davens for Mashiach, he davens for a friend, for a shidduch. Imagine what an effect, how it permeates the upper worlds. Moreover, Rabbi said, there's nothing that we wouldn't do for our children. And in closing, I want to share with you, I believe is perhaps the most fascinating Maramakim that I've ever seen my entire life. Listen to a Sipurno. The Sipurno is in the same era as the Beis Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Kari. We're talking about the 16th century. Everybody knows the Sipurno is the commentators on Chumash. Every Chumash, all the Chumashim, Krois Gedolos, you open a Chumash, you see the Pirush of the Sipurno. Listen to what the Sipurno writes. He asked the Kasha. The daughters of Lavan are leaving. They're going with Yaakov Avinu. They're establishing, they're going to create a Klal Yisrael. They're going to create Shiftei Kah. We're going to have the Yud Bei Shvatim. It's the beginning of our nation. Why is the Torah wasting so many letters, writing so many words on the brachos that Lavan gave his daughters when they left? Lavan is the quintessential Rasha. He's the Arami Ovidavi. Does it really make a difference what he says? That the Torah has to go out of its way to explain the brachas that Lavan gave his daughters when they left? We're talking about they lived with Yaakov Avinu. Could there be something better than living with a tzaddik like Yaakov Avinu? The Torah has to go out and write the brachas that the father Lavan did? Zok the Sipurno. The greatest bracha, the greatest tefillah, is that from a parent to a child. There is nothing more that reaches the Kisei HaKavod to the Ribono Shel Olam than a Birchas Ha'av ala Ben, when a parent davens for a child. And you know why? Because when a parent davens for a child, they mean it. And therefore, says the Sipurno, the Torah went out of its way to elaborate, not succinct, not discreet, but to elaborate on the brachos that Lavan gave his children. Because even a Lavan, the effect that it has. Let truth be told, this is not only a Sipurno. This is recorded in the Tana de Eliyahu. These are brises that were written in the Chavrusa Shaf, in the partner learningship that Eliyahu Hanavi himself had with Rav Anon. And in the Sefer Tana de Eliyahu, the Tana de Eliyahu writes that Eliyahu Hanavi told Rav Anon that how we Klal Yisrael, how we Zoicha to an Ezra HaSofer. Ezra HaSofer, the great Ezra, the Gemara says that if not for Moshe Rabbeinu gave over the Torah, Ezra would have been the Moshe HaTorah. He brought Klal Yisrael from Bavel back to Eretz Yisrael, back to Yerushalayim to begin building the second Beis Hamikdash. Says the Tana de Eliyahu, these are words of Eliyahu Hanavi. These are brises that are recorded in the Chavrusa Shaf. How would we zoicha to an Ezra HaSofer? Listen to this Tana de Eliyahu. Ma'aseh b'koyin echad. There was a story about one koyin. We'll conclude with this. Shayori Shemayim b'seisa. He was a God-fearing Jew, b'seiser. V'hayoyse ma'asem tovim b'seiser. V'hayoyle asara banim. He had 10 children. Sheish zecharim v'yarba nekevis. 6 boys, 6 zecharim, and 4 nekevis. Ubechol yom v'yom, but every single day. Hayim ispalel, he would turn to the Rebbeinu Shalom and he would daven. Shelo yavo yechad behem, lidei avera v'lo lidei dava mechuyer. That please, Rebbeinu Shalom, give koyach that my children shouldn't succumb to chet, they shouldn't do any averis. Concludes the Ton of Eliyahu. Miyad kol shnasai, it's at the end of that year. Shezacha, v'yatza mimenu Ezra HaSofer. It was that tefillah that he was zocheh to have a child like Ezra HaSofer. It wasn't the bracha of Yirmiyahu HaNavi. It wasn't the tefillah of Baruch ben Neriah, the greatest prophets of the generation. No. It was the tefillah of a parent. We don't even know if he was a Navi. But he davened for his child. And there's no greater tefillah, there's no greater effect than when a parent davens for a child. May we utilize the opportunities of Elul. Let's remember, let's not forget. Why? Kitza Akka, because we called out. Let's always remember the words of the Haflah. It's B'schar Tefillah, or our Atzlocha, our prosperity. It comes from the schus of Tefillah. Chizkiyahu HaMelech, he went ahead, he was gone on Sefer Refuos. He hid the medical book because people stopped davening. But the lesson of Rav Gifta, that there's something greater than Bikuach Nefashos, and that's called Bikuach Neshamis. Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky's lesson of Elul. Toivli Teiras Picha Me'alfei Zov V'Chesed. Could you imagine if I could change my tefillah 0.5%? How much it's worth in the eyes of the Rebbeinu Shalom. But let's remember the message of the Mabit. Ki kori ve'elecha adav ha'moed. It's so close. But we merit in the schus that everyone should be zeicher to have so much nachas from the children, from the Eineklach, from the Eineklach, from the entire mishpacha. We should have to be zeicher all together. Kisimach simetoiva. A good geben shir. May we be zeicher v'chein tein pachtecha Hashem Elokeinu. V'yavon kol piyul ki ato piyaltoi. V'yavon kol yitzur ki ato yitzartoi. Thank you so much for coming and thank you for listening.